Hello, welcome to the first episode of the Space Industry Connoisseur. Today we have a very adventurous guest here with us. This extraordinary man is part of the accredited space agency. Not only is he part of it, he was handpicked to be a part of that wonderful organization. He is also a president and a founder of multiple different organizations and groups that specializes in space travel. And today, I am happy to have him with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Curran. Craig, it is absolutely wonderful that you are here today. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Joel. It's a pleasure to be here. I love talking about space.
Awesome. Let's get right into it. So first and foremost, I want to ask you, how did you become a space agent? We know that you were handpicked for it, but how did you get to the point where an organization would choose you or handpick you to sell space travel tickets for six figures or more a piece? How did you get there? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've been selling travel all my life. I'm a travel agent by trade. And, like anything, you do it for 30 or 35 or 40 years. It doesn't become boring, but it becomes a little bit more routine. You've been there, you've done that, seen a lot of the world. I love working as a travel agent. I love running the agency and the various things that we do. Back in 2010, Virgin Galactic was just beginning their retail push to sell tickets to go on their spaceship to space. This started in 2004 with the Ansari X Prize, which Virgin Galactic entered with the Burt Rutan, the designer of Spaceship One, and they did win the X Prize. In any event, they were looking for their retail outlet. How are they going to sell their tickets to the public? And I belong to a group called Virtuoso, which is a invitation-only group of high-end luxury bespoke travel agents. And Virgin Galactic felt that our customer base psychographically and demographically was the kind of person that would be a potential to buy one of their tickets to go to space. So they approached Virtuoso about being their retail arm. The Virtuoso put that out to all of the member agents. And you had to apply to become a member, to become an accredited space agent with Virgin Galactic. You had to write a marketing plan. You had to tell them a little bit about yourself, your clients, the people you had access to, things of that nature. I applied. I did all of that. They interviewed us, and ultimately about 110 or 120 of us were chosen to become accredited space agents. We went into an intensive training program. It's a complicated product to learn all about it and what was happening in the industry. I did that in Texas, graduated from that program, and became an accredited space agent. And spent the first year from 2010 to 2011 talking about Virgin Galactic and going to space on their suborbital flights. As much as I could. I went to experimental aircraft groups. I went to the JCs. I went to charitable groups. I went to country clubs. Anyone who was willing to have me and listen to the story about Virgin Galactic, I spoke to. In that year of that process, I started drinking my own Kool-Aid. I was so excited about selling it. And I started to become a real believer in it, and I wanted to do it myself. And so I ultimately bought my own ticket in 2011, and I became a future astronaut with Virgin Galactic. So I went from selling it to being, a customer. Mm-hmm. And that led to me meeting a lot of people that had similar demographic, psychographic backgrounds, okay? Big thinkers, open-minded, adventure-seeking. And these people were fascinating to me. And as I got to know them and know about their travel patterns and the types of things they did, from mountain climbing to cave exploring to high altitude balloon, all kinds of things, the whole notion of extreme travel started to get very interesting to me, and I started to do a lot of it. So, whether it was trying to go to the Titanic, to visit the Titanic, flying supersonic in a MiG-21 jet, these types of things were very exciting, and I started promoting those to my clients. And so now my passion is what I'm calling space and extreme travel. And that's how I got here.
So, going through all the trials and the tribulations of your journey of becoming a space agent, what would you say would be the most challenging part of selling tickets to people to go to space? Because I know it's got to be some type of challenge, because that's just how the aerospace and the space industry is. So for you, what's the most challenging aspect of being a space agent, and particularly selling tickets to people to go to space?
So, yeah, I struggled with this. As I mentioned earlier, I did all kinds of outreach. I'll give you another example beyond the speaking. There's a aircraft called Zero G, or an organization called Zero G, which has a aircraft, a modified Boeing 727. They can do parabolic flights up and down, and it simulates. Well, it doesn't simulate. You actually experience zero Gs, or what we call microgravity, more accurately. You have about 30 seconds for each parabola. They do 15 of them. They can do lunar gravity, Mars gravity, and micro or zero gravity. It's the exact same experience that the astronauts have in the International Space Station. So I chartered that airplane and I brought it to my hometown, Rochester, New York, in upstate New York, partnered with the planetarium, other organizations, and sold tickets for people to go and experience zero G. And we were successful. We filled the plane. It was a lot of work to do it, but none of those people became clients for future astronauts. That ticket was $7,000 at the time. It's about $9,500 now to do that experience over about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Um, so I was struggling to find, how do I get in front of people that are interested in this and have the time and the means to do it. Mm-hmm. What I learned through all that trials and experimentation was that this is really about networking and peer-to-peer marketing. So it's getting involved in groups that are have similar interests and might be open to this type of experience. So a lot of my future astronaut friends now are customers of mine to fly supersonic in military jets. All right, because it's a similar, I think, psychographic aspiration that they have and desire for adventure. A lot of future astronauts are mountain climbers, interestingly enough. So being involved in the mountain climbing community and letting them know that this is available. A lot of people don't know you can do this. All right. So it's getting the word out, but it's networking, peer-to-peer networking in groups like mountain climbers that are conducive to doing this kind of experience. And those groups also, people that take 2 weeks or 3 weeks to go to Everest and climb Everest, typically have the means financially and the time to do that, which also you need to be able to do something like this. The Space Perspective space balloon, which goes up to 100,000 feet and come down, which is not operational yet, but hopefully will be within a year or two. That's $125,000. To go with Virgin Galactic, the last tickets that we're selling were $650,000 a ticket, and those may go up. To go suborbital with Blue Origin, they don't publish their numbers, but 1.3 million, 1.4 million seems to be the number that's bandied about. And to go on a 7 or 8 or 9 day orbital mission to the International Space Station is on the order of anywhere from $45 to $70 million. So this is not an easy to sell product that's right for everyone, at least not at this stage.
It sounds like one of the hardest things is to get people over is the price of of doing this type of thing. Even if you're somebody who is adventurous or may not be adventurous, you may see that thing, or you want to try a space flight, but you're not able to do that because you don't have the funding to do that.
It's interesting. So that's one way to look at it, and it's a very correct way to look at it. Another way to look at it is the universe of people on the planet who do have the means to do this is very large, much larger than I ever understood. There are a lot of people out there with the means to do this. So the market is very substantial. It is not a market that's appropriate for, those of us that work normal jobs and get normal paychecks. All right. At least not yet. Now, like I said, for $6,500 when I did it to $9,500 now, you can experience zero gravity with zero G. All right. That's something that you can do. All right. So there are analogs, if you will, to going to space that are available to folks, and there are more and more of them. We sell a lot with an organization called NASTAR, which is in Philadelphia, which is a aerospace training center, and they have a centrifuge. And in the centrifuge, you go in it and you can mimic the profile of various space launches. All right, that's something that's reasonably affordable that people can do. But actually making it to space at this time is very expensive. Now, to that end, when jet travel first was invented, or when prop travel was first invented, or when steamship travel was first invented, only the very, very wealthy could go. Well, as the market grew and as technology grew, prices came down. And now you can fly from Rochester, New York, my home base, to South Florida, one way with 2 pieces of luggage, in some cases for under $200.
Right.
So the pricing is going to change. And I say tongue in cheek, Jeff Bezos, who runs Blue Origin, knows a thing about driving down prices as the founder and CEO of Amazon. All right. So if he's going to apply that same model to space, who knows where the costs will come down to. Virgin Galactic's model right now, they're Delta class spaceships. There'll be fleets of 4 or 5 spaceships at each spaceport with 1 or 2 motherships to do the launching. But they're envisioning, spaceports around the globe. All right. And when you can run that spaceship once a week with 6 passengers, all right, 300 passengers a year per spaceship, you're reusing the same ship, the same facilities, the cost comes down. I can't predict what that cost will be, but it is going to come down. It may still go up, but it's going to peak at some point, and then it's going to drop back down again. So it's a relative question, right? Those that can't afford it clearly can't afford it, but those that can, there is a very substantial market of a large group of those people that qualify.
So speaking of the large group of people that qualify and people that have the means to do it, in terms of creating jobs, just in general in the industry, how do you think the space tourism industry in the future will contribute to the economy in the future? Like, what's your opinion on that?
So I think we're looking at I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the growth year over year in the order of 200 or 300%. Each year in terms of the actual spend that goes into this segment of the industry. It's going to be very substantial. And you're going to have space hotels where people are going to go up and spend time in space. You're going to have manufacturing in space. You're going to have research in space. You're going to have encampments on the moon. That's coming, in your lifetime. No, people will be going to the moon and checking into a hotel. It won't be a luxurious, won't be the same sense as a resort, but they'll be going to the moon for a host of reasons. All right. There's going to be human settlement there. We are by nature explorers and an inquisitive race, and we are going to space, and we're going to be in space. So there's going to be a massive ecosystem that's built around that. Tons of infrastructure is being built right now for space stations. So yeah, it's going to be massive, and it will have a tremendous impact for us on Earth. I can't tell you what the impact is going to be exactly, but for instance, artificial intelligence requires tremendous computing power, and that requires tremendous cooling because of all the heat generated. Well, if those server farms are built in space, you eliminate the cooling problem and the energy levels go down tremendously. So, you can be very efficient in doing that from space. Right now, we can, through GPS technology, we can talk to anyone from any place on the planet. We can find out where there's too much water and too little water. We can help manage crops to help feed the population, right? We can monitor the weather better than we've never been able to do. I mean, and these are just basic things that we may take for granted now, but those are all a result of going to space and the technology that's gone into it. Manufacturing techniques for carbon fiber, nanotechnology. All of this is a major, major player, not to mention the medical impacts of what can be manufactured in space in terms of medicines that you can't do in gravity. It boggles the mind to even think of what impact this is all going to have and what advantages we're going to get from it, but they're going to be exponentially astounding, in my opinion.
So, do you think space, specifically space tourism industries or companies like Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, Space Perspective, SpaceX, do you think that in terms of advertising, do you think that these companies advertise enough to get more people interested or just to get more public attention to this industry, so that way people can contribute, not just buying tickets, but contribute, like going into the industry, like starting a career in the industry or getting involved? Do you think that the companies that are involved in this space age of public space travel, do you think that these companies are doing the advertising necessary to get more people involved into the industry? Or do you think that the companies need to do more and we need more advertising?
So I think we need to do more. And I've spoken to a couple of the aforementioned organizations, expressing my belief that there's an opportunity for any one of them to own the narrative about what's happening with our evolution into a spacefaring species. That's at a very high level. All right. But there is so many good stories to tell that any one of those organizations, if they choose to control that narrative and start putting resources into getting the word out, that I think it would be beneficial for them to get customers in their own pipeline and secure their position as a thought leader in this industry. And it also would have the very real impact of focusing attention and getting people interested in it. So I do think that's an area that needs attention. Now, that said, you have to understand, we are in our infancy here, all right? The space tourism market really didn't even exist until 2004 when Spaceship One went up and became back down, but it didn't exist then. Virgin Galactic didn't exist then. That was just the Ansari X Prize. And it wasn't until really 2010, 2011, when Virgin Galactic, way before anybody else, Blue Origin didn't exist, started the tourism industry, the space tourism industry. Now, there was an accident with Virgin Galactic in 2014, which slowed down everything, as you can well imagine. And it wasn't until 2022 when they actually got back to space again and had the Flight of Unity, and Richard Branson went up and all of that. So you can only imagine where we would have been had the accident not occurred and we'd been able to be operational, say, in 2015 or 2016 at the latest. We would have had, a 5-6 year head start on SpaceX, on Blue Origin, on everyone's space perspective. But what I want to point out is that right now we're in our infancy. That's the point I'm trying to make. There are a ton of organizations that are already doing work to promote space, especially to children. All right, we're doing a lot. There's a lot of charitable organizations doing it for charity, but there's an awful lot doing it for children. There actually are organizations working on cryptocurrencies for the moon, a whole new economic system of payments based on crypto. So there's an awful lot happening, but there's not a lot of confluence of all these organizations right now. But there is grassroots activity happening. We need more.
So, speaking of influence, one of the, in my opinion, the biggest influencer right now that's involved with space that is Elon Musk. He has a huge audience because of his acquisition with Twitter and social media. How do you think space professionals and influencers can influence society more to embrace the idea of becoming a spacefaring culture? Because I know you talked about all the benefits of manufacturing, of the environment, the luxuries that we have now, of course, of our phone with satellite and GPS. What other ways do you think that people can start influencing people, and specifically people that has the reach that Elon Musk has, or that has the mystique or the energetic energy that Richard Branson has? How do you think that these people, and just people in general that's interested in space, how do you think we can get people more accepting of the idea of a spacefaring culture?
So I think those people with a bully pulpit, those people with a voice, need to focus on the successes and the benefits at a more granular level on a regular basis. Here's what we discovered today. Here's a milestone we're reaching tomorrow. Here's what we see the impact is going down the road. These are our concrete plans for what we're doing. And Elon certainly has the audience to do that. And he's got very big aspirations to go to Mars. And he does speak about that. But I think, it's not granular. It's not detailed enough in terms of what the successes are and the very real benefits that we would get back here on Earth. So I'd like to see that shift a little bit in terms of speaking about what's happening in space. And he's got the platform to do it, that's for sure.
It's so challenging because just the space industry and even the space tourism aspect side of it is still a research based kind of thing. So you kind of have to go through the trials and the errors to get the technology right. And speaking to people about it, when they see, Elon's rocket, recently the Starship, when they see the trials and tribulations and they see the rocket blow up, that kind of scares people a little bit and go like, hey, I don't think that this is it, but that's that's just the nature of the business. You gotta try, and you gotta research, and you gotta go through the tribulations.
It's interesting that you focus on that particular aspect
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening at SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. First,
Yes.
People that break boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
people that dare to do some of these things, by their nature, are oftentimes extroverts, overly confident in themselves, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps a bit of a cowboy or cowgirl, kind of like what we typically can think of a jet fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
These are people that push boundaries. All right. So their initial, or they're not focused on being tidy. All right. And things of that nature. They're doers. They're making things happen. And that can sometimes obscure the underlying message of what's happening. It can also offend some people if they don't care for that type of style. But these are the people that we get the benefit from, right? Every time they fail,
Yes.
we learn something.
Yes.
All right. Every time a test pilot goes up in an airplane and there's a crash or whatever, we learn from that, right? We are the beneficiaries of that. So for me, I'm thankful for that type of person, that they're willing to put their skin in the game, their life on the line, when they're in these vehicles, their money and resources into developing this. The government didn't develop this; these individuals did. All right, so that's why we're here. Without them, NASA has no way to get to the space station. Literally, no way to get to the space station without them, all right? Without them, this industry doesn't develop, and we don't get all the benefits here back on Earth of it. So I take a bit of a burn when people think that this is a bunch of rich people competing with one another to get to space first. Are there egos involved? They sure are, but these guys have created the most massive organizations on Earth in one lifetime. Amazon, SpaceX, Tesla. It's bizarre. We're such beneficiaries of that. What Tesla's done in terms of pushing battery manufacturing forward and electric vehicles, cannot be understated. So sometimes the underlying message of what's happening is obscured by personalities and things of that nature. Now, secondly, the point with Elon, particularly with SpaceX, is he has a different design and engineering philosophy than, let's say, NASA did. Mm-hmm. NASA had a philosophy of you take every single component in a spaceship system, mm-hmm. and you over-engineer it to the 10th degree, all right? So where it's just so redundant, it is never going to fail, all right? Well, it takes 50 years to do that, all right? To get a spaceship that'll fly doing that. We haven't been to space since the 70s, all right? It's 50 years ago, all right? In a matter of, 5 or 10 years or less, mm-hmm. Blue and SpaceX have gone from nothing to landing their boosters vertically on floating barges in the ocean. NASA couldn't do that. So in Elon's design and engineering philosophy is you build it until it breaks. So that explosion of Starship was designed. They expected it. They would have been very happy if it hadn't done that, but they want to push this vehicle to failure. It's a much faster method of designing a technology. It's one that NASA wasn't willing to do, but it's one that SpaceX is. Hence, their rate of innovation and accomplishment is far, far faster than what NASA or a government organization could do. So people see that and they say, oh, well, there's a failure, it's dangerous. No, it's not dangerous. That wasn't a failure. It was designed to fail. And that will continue to be the case on how SpaceX develops their systems. That doesn't make them less safe. Mm-hmm. It makes them faster to design and deploy and build, and it makes it cheaper. And then it opens up space to more and more people. So that message, back to our earlier point, those messages are not being, carried in the media. And of course, the media goes where it seems that it finds controversy or excitement, you know. Doing a special on the excellence of SpaceX's design philosophy and engineering philosophy is not nearly as attractive to a spaceship blowing up on the news. News media gives us what we want to hear is the audience. So, we could do a better job of telling the story as an industry without question.
I always had, and I was always thinking this. I don't know if you're into sports, but we would. I know my family and we will watch the Super Bowl, or if you're into soccer and the World Cup, there are always these commercials, and companies pay really big bucks to have a commercial on these places, and it's because so many people watches it. I always wondered how come I've never seen one of these companies make an attempt. I know it's in its infancy and I know it's new, but I'm like, man, if one of these companies just does a commercial with these incredible, amazing vehicles and these things, I always wondered how many more people would get excited and pumped up for the industry. So that was just always an idea.
I think the answer to that is relatively simple, and it's money. Well, it's twofold. It's money and it's audience. All right. So none of these organizations that are the startups have got money to throw at advertising in a shotgun sense. All right. So when you put a commercial on the Super Bowl, you're sending a message out to 300 million people across, or whatever the number is. It's a shotgun approach. You're not using a rifle and finding your audience that's going to respond, because of that 300 million, I'm just making that number up, 299,900,099 are not your customer. So you're paying to reach them in the cost of the ad, and you're not getting to a customer that's meaningful for you. So if you're going to have an advertising budget, you're going to spend it where it's going to get the message just to the people that you want it to get to. So there's twofold. It's not an appropriate vehicle to advertise because of the cost and the consumers you're approaching. And secondly, they don't have advertising budgets for retail advertising right now. The numbers are just not there. So with SpaceX, I don't have the number at my fingertips, but it might be on their vehicles through Axiom Space. They've had maybe 14, 16 people go to space. That's it, right? So I'm trying to think for Blue, I don't know, maybe 30, if that. So you're probably looking at less than 100 people that have actually been to space since the space tourism market has opened up. Well, that's not a mass market. That's not a retail advertising environment yet.
I hope it becomes that in the future. I'm optimistic that it will become that. So earlier we mentioned that you are a space agent. For someone who, because myself, I am not a STEM college student. I mean, I got a degree in communications, and I'm pursuing a master's in space operations. But for people, and for young people, coming out of high school or just coming out of college that pursue like a degree in art or a degree in philosophy, the arts, I'm a communications major. What would you say to those people that have a degree in the arts? What would you say to those people, or what advice would you give for those people to get into the industry or be a part of the industry?
In today's world, with the internet and social media, it's really, really easy, which it wasn't the case before. And the way I would start is simply getting involved with organizations that are space related. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I would sign up for the newsletters. You just do a Google search for space organizations, manufacturing organizations, and you'll come across all these groups. And I would get involved with them and become, because they all set out, like I said, newsletters and emails and information, and start getting becoming aware of what's going on in the industry. That's absolutely where I'd start. And then from there, opportunities will arise, or you can drill down into areas of specific interest. All of these organizations, you can express an interest in jobs. They all have their websites, all have areas where they post the jobs that are open, so you can see what kind of people they're looking for. Typically, it's engineers right now. But yeah, it's easy to get involved and to start becoming aware of what's happening in the industry, and that's the place to start.
That's really good to know, and really encouraging. I hope that today this podcast with you being on here encourages people to go out and do that, because I really do believe that a lot of people are interested in space but don't really know how to get into it. So the advice you gave of joining organizations that are in the realm of space, I think will be helpful to people, especially younger kids, high school kids, people that just graduated with an arts degree. Like, man, everybody's looking for STEM, but like you said, there are organizations you can join. I know there's the National Space Society you can join. It's a lot of places you can join. So that's really encouraging to hear. I am so happy that you came. I am thankful to have had you on, and this was a very fun discussion. And yeah, I hope people take this and are encouraged to follow their dreams. And if you're interested in space, definitely get involved. We need more people.
And I'll be waving to you from space when I'm up there, Noel.
For sure. I'm gonna join you.
Terrific.
All right. Well, that is all for today for the Space Industry Connoisseur. You guys can go on ahead and like and subscribe if you like the content. And once again, this was my guest, Craig Curran. I will see you guys next time.